body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Kowloon Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to go my life too. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take on what series.
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It's a science place. It's a scientific fact. We're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic reversal. Welcome to it, and also welcome to it. Tonight, Mr. Kal Marks himself, Carl Shane. There's a new record. There's a new lineup. There's tour dates. It's a whole situation. I'm looking forward to talking to that man. That should be, as they say in the biz, a very good time. So before we get to Carl, real quick, I'm going to do this intro. Welcome to Conan. Yeah, I'm doing a fantastic job of it too. Welcome to Kowloon Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Kowloon Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer who has toured and recorded for over 22 years, most known for the band Kowloon Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect. Folks that may or may not be household names, but do something very special. This is episode 302. If this is your first time listening to the show, all the archives are at protonicreversal.com and are always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. And if you'd like to support the show and get episodes sooner, you can give $1 a month to patreon.com/protonicreversal. And if you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to share it along, like, subscribe, or post a review. All of that helps people find the show. And it's just a darn nice thing to do. Just a darn nice thing to do. Darn nice. So yeah, without further ado, let's bring on Carl. Carl Shane, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
I'm gonna switch over to this. There we go. That's better.
Nice.
I got it.
Sorry, it's so dark in here. I had to go with the room that has the best air conditioning. It's super hot today.
That's absolutely an aesthetic choice I can get behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, visuals definitely take a back seat towards comfort of being in a room, as far as I'm concerned. So
yes, indeed.
No harm, no foul. Welcome, man. Congratulations on the brand new release too. I know there's a hell of a story behind it, but yeah, there's a lot of newness going on.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Kal Marks World, but it's a ripper record. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So let's start off with the fact that now, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but like you started off Kal Marks as kind of like a solo deal.
Yeah. Many years ago, I 2006, and it was kind of almost more like singer-songwritery.
Yeah, different vibes is probably the best way to put it, right?
Yeah, definitely a totally different vibe. And then when it became a band, it became a band in 2010.
Right.
And at that time, I mean, it wasn't that I abandoned singer-songwriter crap, but it was also kind of at the same time, I was really getting into a band called Harvey Milk. And
not only am I familiar, Creston has been on this show.
Yeah, I listened to that one because I don't really think I've ever heard him talk.
Yeah, it's a pretty, not to immediately derail your story by telling you about.
No, that's fine.
But like, I was very honored that he chose to talk with me, and I get the feeling that I was like, oh, you don't do this very much, do you? So yeah.
No, I think that's how I found out about your show.
Oh, no kidding! You were the guy. All right.
Yeah. And I think I was just I don't know, somewhere saw it posted somewhere like Creston speaks,
Yes.
and
yeah, totally, of course, yeah.
Super, like, one of the most underrated minds and musical talents there is, and
brilliant.
So, and I've just been one of his biggest fans. It really coincided with when the band became when Kal Marks became a band.
What people think of when they think of the band Kal Marks is
yeah. Not that to say that it would be very apparent that we were influenced by Harvey Milk. It was still, nowhere near as brutal as them, but it was like leeching into the a guy that was obsessed with Bob Dylan, or Modest Mouse or something like that. It really, I totally got overcome by their catalog. I love that every record was different.
Yeah,
I love that there was humor. I loved how dark it was. I loved that it was just, there were so many different aspects of it, but you knew it was them right away.
And just immediately recognizable, no matter what it is they were up to at any given moment.
Yeah.
And also good use of space. Especially for those early records. I mean, good Lord, like the patience between some of the notes is like, you got to be kidding me, these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that first record, I wouldn't say there's one specific record that's my favorite, but like sometimes I'm kind of like, yeah, that first one was really amazing. I don't know. They're all really great.
There's really nothing that I can think of. There's nothing exactly like it. There's certainly other records like kind of like that, I guess, and then they even didn't repeat themselves after it too, which I respect. I respect that.
Yeah. A couple people have asked me what's a similar band, and I tell them like with a shrug, I go, Melvins?
Melvins, kind of like in some ways, yeah.
And I love the Melvins, but there's like way more of like a tortured soul like behind it, like a very I don't know. There's all sorts of different kinds of artists, but like it really spoke to me. And yeah.
Well, and I can hear it somewhat compositionally too, at least in terms of like in the way that, and I've said this before, but when someone says a band sounds like Melvins, that can mean a couple things. It means they sound like one record that the Melvins did in one era of what they did, or like what they do, or that they have, they're just not afraid to go deep, so to speak. And that's kind of what I hope for, and it's usually just like, oh no, you guys like Bullhead too, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's be clear, that's not just a Melvins thing too. That's like they kind of sound like shellac. Okay, what does that mean when you say
yeah.
But I think I see what you're saying, the fact that like the way things kind of fit together, but also kind of coming from, and it's a loaded term, but like the more singer-songwriter-y perspective as well, like that side of things, like Creston does.
Yeah, not that Kal Marks isn't like collaborative; it's totally collaborative. But I feel like he just has this like very interesting point of view, and he like built his own vocabulary and everything, like from his guitar playing to the way he likes to space things, to structuring, to his lyrics, like everything was just, I like world building. Like I like artists that like a Tom Waits, like kind of like they build a like it's so on its own, and you can like really step into it. And
It's
be like,
dense. It's very dense in that way.
yeah, absolutely. And I saw them in 2012. I think that was the last time they ever came around, and they were so drunk.
I thought you were gonna say good, but that's hilarious.
No, that being said, it was surprising how good they were.
Right. Okay.
Like they were still perfect. They played everything perfect, but they were so drunk, and Crescent was like maybe kind of getting kind of like emotional drunk. And
oh, right, that style, sure, yeah.
But they were still like everything was perfect. There was not one bit of sloppiness to it, but we're like downing shots like in between every song, and yeah, it was awesome. It was great.
They do any pleaser songs, or was it the heady material?
They did
Rock and Roll Party.
No, I don't think so at all. Which I like. I don't hate that record either.
Oh, I totally dig it, actually.
Some people, I've talked about this recently with somebody. I can't remember. Yeah, I talked to this guy about how I have some friends that are too serious about their music taste.
Yes,
and I like artsy fartsy stuff for sure. I like the pretentious stuff, but I also like, and like B-52s are fucking amazing. Like
yes.
you can't like have any irony or any humor in your music. And so I definitely did have some friends that were like, fuck the Pleaser. It's an awful record. And I'm like, it rips. It's great and it's funny.
Yeah.
But it's so like a different side of, it's like maybe there was like a little taste of that in their other records, and then they're just like, we're going all in on this record.
It's an all in sort of situation. Like, and I mean, maybe you would agree, maybe you disagree, but I think if it just hadn't been called Harvey Milk, certain people would have been less upset by it. But I think they did, because it's sort of like, no, we're just gonna do whatever the heck we want. What we want to do is apparently sound like Kiss. So okay, great.
I think there's a big through line through a lot of music that I like, where you kind of get this feeling that you're just like, oh, they don't give a fuck. Like,
right.
They're doing their own thing, and they don't care
about
what is the trend at all,
And a lot of people will say that. A lot of people will claim that. But back in like, putting it all on black and pushing the forward is a wildly different scenario. Because there's no guarantee, for bands that have built an audience anyway, that people are going to be along for the ride with you, and you have to be willing to, take that gamble.
Yeah. And then the other thing about them too is like that, having that humor, but also having that like the darkest moments, and then also the most beautiful like moments. I think that really has always kind of attracted me. Like I talked about Tom Waits, but like
one of my favorite artists of all time, by the way, just FYI. So
absolutely, same here. There's I know some people will be like, if I say like there's nobody like Tom Waits, and they'll be like, well, there's Captain Beefheart, and I'm a big Beefheart fan too. But I'm like, it's the only similarity is their voice. That's it. That is it. Their music is so different. But Tom Waits, the ability to make something that sounds like a circus nightmare to and being like one of the most beautiful songs ever. I feel like it really makes, in the context of the work, it really makes it very effective to me.
I agree.
I think that's just me though. Like it's only certain kind of people like that.
Well, I think if there were, so think about it this way, right? There's a lot of bands that were like, oh, it's a Stones ripoff, and like, you know, like whatever, for some reason, like sometimes it's kind of given a pass, sometimes it isn't. But the fact that there are so few artists that trade in that kind of, and to be clear, I'm talking about not the troubadour Tom Waits period, but the clanking pans and, you know, Tim Sanelli, Kathleen Brannon era. If there had been dozens and dozens of people working in that idiom, I don't think that there would be quite so many. Oh yeah, but Captain Beefheart. It's like, yeah, Captain Beefheart.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same, man. It's not exactly the same thing. It's like there's a lot of bands that you could say like have like a through line to. I mean, like, look, I love the Hot Snakes, right?
Yeah.
I also love the Wipers, and like,
yeah. Their
Hot
first
Snakes,
record is very Wipers.
very Wipersy, and there's nothing wrong with that because
No.
like, you know, Greg Sage isn't even doing it anymore. So it's like, hey, you know,
I wish
for you guys. I know, I wish it was, but like, I think when there's fewer examples and somebody like a Beefheart is so iconic, I think there's a natural inclination, especially when it's something that's, let's be clear, Tom Waits' voice is an acquired taste, right?
For sure.
And like, as much as one of my favorite artists of all time, I'll rarely evangelize because I figure people are smart enough to make up their own mind, and it's just a tiresome conversation, and it's what it is. But I think that the songwriting, again, heretical concept amongst music nerds circles, I think there's way stronger songwriting in the Tom Waits world than the Captain Beefheart world. I think
totally.
I think Captain Beefheart, what he did with songwriting with him and his collaborators in Magic Band is like, if anything, a little underrated. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Pound for pound, like actual songwriting, Tom Waits wins in a walk. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You can definitely hear a lot more bands that are influenced by the Captain Beefheart sound. Because the truth is, Tom Waits doesn't make rock music.
Right. And
Captain
if he does, it's almost
did.
When Tom Waits makes rock music, it's almost by accident.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like, I guess that's a rock song. All right.
I know. Yeah. It's like Going Out West is like the closest to a actual rock song, but he still, like, I don't think he ever used electric bass or a normal like trap set, and but with Captain Beefheart, it's a band that it's a rock band.
Yeah,
that is just like mangled and like
it's been sent
Coleman
came
together.
Yeah, exactly.
And
which is the appeal.
you can
hear that as a compliment. Yeah, but
and you can hear that in a lot of bands. Like I'll routinely still find bands where they're like, you know, they got the squonk, I call it, and I'm like, oh, you guys got the Captain Beefheart squonk.
You squonk, huh?
You like to squonk around.
Squonking around.
But also, that being said, Captain Beefheart, one of my favorite records by him is actually one of his more conventional records, and it's Dock at the Radar. Clear Spot. Sorry, Clear Spot. Dock at the Radar, I love that too. That's a little bit more squonky.
It was either going to be that or Safe as Milk. It's like, it's a very small amount.
Safe as Milk was the first one I listened to, actually. And actually, that's not true. My brother showed me Trout Mask when I was in 3rd grade. My brother's 5 years older. Right. And I was like, I don't understand music.
I don't know what this is. What is happening right now?
Yeah. And then so I ventured into, I just bought from a record store Safe as Milk and was like, oh, this isn't as frightening.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Clear Spot is, I think that record fucking rules because it's a little bit, it's more conventional, but still not, it's still very unique.
It is. Yeah. There's nothing like that one either. Yeah.
And it has one of his most beautiful songs ever called, what's it called? My head is my only house except when it rains, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And my friends were gonna make it their first dance song at their wedding.
Oh.
And they went for something more, they went for like Van Morrison instead, right, something that wouldn't frighten people. But I was like, damn, I wish you guys did that. That would have been so sick.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, you can make a whole theme of it. Her eyes are a blue million miles would work in that, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not, maybe the extended family is not gonna quite get down with it as much. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, so I've taken you for a ride with Tom Waits and
Yeah.
Preston
Sorry.
and
It's my fault.
Beefheart now. No, it's nobody's fault. But I'm saying we were originally talking about the protogenesis of Kal Marks as from a project into a band. So can you speak a little bit to that evolution earlier on?
Yeah. So in 2010, we formed a 3-piece version of band. It was me and my friend from high school that played drums, and we played in a band in high school. And then this guy that we randomly met through a friend of a friend who recorded us. And he wanted to record us, and we were like, we don't have a bass player yet. And he was like, I'll do it. And so that was the first lineup. That went for 2 years. We recorded EP, but never really did any serious touring, just like Northeast stuff. And then it became another 3-piece with two different drummers, a different drummer and a different bass player. And that's when we recorded the first full length.
The Goodbye Horses.
No, sorry. Actually, wow, you were going back that far.
Yeah, I'm going back.
Some don't acknowledge that. Some that's
something non-canonical.
Yeah, that's
canonical.
So that was the first. That was actually the first line.
The first one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Life is Murder. The thing is with Goodbye Horses is that is totally like more like in my mind
reband kind of.
It's like a solo record in my mind.
Sure.
Even though that band was on it, I wrote all those songs by myself and was tooling them around for forever, trying to get people to play. And then the first trio record to me is Life is Murder.
Life is Murder, right.
Yeah. And then that trio version went for a while. We made a couple records as that trio. And then the pandemic hit, and that left everything up to question.
Right, which is certainly not necessarily a unique case for you guys, but notable. And the fact, I think you have an interesting turn with it, that this is basically like a whole new Kal Marks. Like now correct me if I'm wrong, but 2-time guest Dylan, of a Deer Horse, hit you up and was like, hey, you want to do something, right? Is that how that kind of came to be?
Absolutely. Yeah. So even before the pandemic hit, our drummer that was with us for a long time quit, which I was super bummed about, because he was a great drummer and he was also a great friend. And I don't see him anymore because he moved away, but we still try to talk and whatnot, because he was just a great hang and everything. So when he quit, it was definitely hard to imagine who could join.
Yeah.
And Dylan did immediately throw his name out there to us. And we had played with a Deer Horse a bunch of times. Yeah. I never really talked to him too much, but he messaged me on Facebook or something, I think, and was like, but I was under the impression that he meant it like, if you ever need somebody to fill in.
Right. Yeah. Like if you're doing a thing and you need a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just kept it in the file in my mind as being like, he would be good if we need somebody for a tour.
Yeah.
But ideally, it would be great to find a permanent drummer. And then I even mentioned to him, like, would you want to do a tour in the fall of 2020? And he I think he even said, yeah, he'd be down. And then pandemic hit. Wasn't really talking to anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't think for a good long while, I didn't think there was any possibility of anything happening. I think a lot of people felt that way.
That was not just you. Yeah.
No, it was literally like, I would like to do music, but it might not be with people.
Yeah.
And it might not be performed live.
Because that's kind of how it started, right? I mean, you didn't necessarily have the expectation that it was going to be all performed live. It was your approach.
Yeah.
Let's just write a song and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I started it recording in my sister's bathroom because I liked the reverb and on cassette. Just like that's how I started doing it.
Yeah, it's old school.
But I think it was like 2 or 3 months into the pandemic, he reached out again, and that's when I realized that he was serious. Like he wanted to actually play and work on stuff. And so we talked on the phone for a while, and it was at that same time that Christina joined. And we always talked about wanting a second guitar player, but we were always so lazy about it. And it was only going to happen if it could be easy.
Right.
And then we played with my friend Phil for a while, but it wasn't really his bag. And then we landed with John because I didn't know, none of us knew John, but it turned out he knew similar people, and Dylan recommended him. Dylan said, basically, he was like, I don't even remember this guy's name, but I played in a Dead Kennedys cover band.
Oh, nice. Him. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And so he's like, I could reach out to him. Dylan reached out to him. Then he emailed me, and then we just, I'm not good with texting and emails, so I just asked him if he wanted to talk on the phone, and we did, and we just geeked out for an hour or two, and I just kind of knew, like, yeah, if he's down, it's gonna be good.
Nice.
And so that solidified, and that was literally 3 weeks before going in to record.
Oh wow, it was that early on. Okay, interesting.
So
okay.
John really performed like a Hail Mary pass for us.
I was gonna say that speaks to his credit big time.
Yes, yeah.
Well, and I assume Christina, you probably knew her through Bethlehem Steel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we went on tour together. That's. Mm-hmm. And then we started dating, and then I threw it out there like a joke, like, you should play guitar in the band, thinking she would be like, fuck no. And
and she was like, fuck yes.
And she didn't answer right away. It was
okay.
Like,
all right.
And then I think it was like right around the time when Dylan was like, yes, I'm down. I think that like kind of piqued her interest. Like, he's a good drummer. That'd be fun. It's fun to play with good musicians.
Yeah. Who knew, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but then also you're dealing in a situation where a second guitar, there's other ideas. There's like the space changes, like literally the space between the notes, right? And the dynamic range, like it's a different experience, and it's different from when it's one person doing things like an overdub and like another talented player bringing their creativity into it too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, also with the trio version of the band, I think I left a lot of space as a guitar player for the rhythm section, and I'm just also not that good at guitar. So,
well, look, I mean, people can sit there in Guitar Center and do their Yngwie Malmsteen impressions all day long, but they can't sing a song, right? So it's not about how quote unquote good you are; it's about what you do with it.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. It's kind of funny how like there's not that many really, really like virtuoso, talented musicians that are good songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Stevie Wonder, Prince. That's about it. Like,
I'd say Dwayne Dennison has earned his keep, but yeah.
oh, okay, yeah. I didn't think about that actually at first.
It's a small amount, and it's a certain type of shredding too that he does. Like it's not like the notes per minute shredding that people.
Well,
think.
he kind of plays like I get the impression that he's the kind of player that is actually holding back.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Like,
he could. He absolutely could. He just
he could do all that crap.
Yeah.
But he actually chooses not to. He actually like purposely picks his notes.
And he picks it compositionally too. Which
Yeah.
is
He has a very compositional brain. Yeah. I don't know him. That's why I'm just guessing from listening to.
No, yeah, he's been on a couple times.
Yeah.
The one and only guitar lesson I ever took, which
Really?
which was in 2020 because I was like, fuck it, why not? Was with Dwayne Dennison, of which I picked up maybe 3.4 to 5% of it, but it was
Wow.
But like I've never taken a guitar lesson in my life, and I played 30 years, and I was like, well, what else am I doing? Sure, I'll take a guitar lesson from Dwayne Dennison, and my thing was like, hey, I got a thing I do. I can pretty much do it until the end of time. People that seem to dig it, whatever, it's fine. But that's not good enough for me. I want to push myself out of the corners and try some different stuff. So this is how I would want to engage with you on that, is that I want to like get tips and tricks for things that I wouldn't have thought of doing so I can push myself harder.
That's cool.
Yeah. And he was like, that's great. He's like, most people just want to sit there and learn Jesus Lizard songs. I'm like,
oh, really? Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm like, that does sound cool, but that's not exactly my bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, it totally, and for my purposes, it totally did that as well. But yeah, first ever guitar lesson at like 43 or whatever age I was.
I didn't take that many lessons either, but I remember my mom, I think I got signed up for like classical guitar, and the guitar teacher like quickly like realized like, you don't want to do this, right? And I was like, no, I really don't.
It's not my bag, baby. Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you want? And I was just like, I just wouldn't mind learning some different chords or like some actual like music theory that I could use so I could apply to writing songs. And I'm like 14 years old. And he's like, oh, you're thinking like you want to be a songwriter at 14. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I always knew that. I always knew it. And
it's interesting.
Yeah. And so that was really like my only guitar lessons wasn't even really like learning scales and stuff like that. I mean, there was that, but it was more like just like,
here's an A chord, here's an A minor, like that kind of.
We would just dissect a song, and he would show me, and I didn't retain all of it, but I would be like, oh, that's what a key change is. Because I took piano lessons for years, and I didn't learn shit. I just learned how to read.
Right. Which is useful, but it's not probably why you were doing it. Yeah.
It's not that useful though, because when you think about it, when you play with a band, like I tried to play keyboards with a band, and they were like, this song's in C. And I was like, you know what? I don't even really know what the key of C is.
I don't know what to do with that.
I know it's this key right here.
Yeah.
And I know it's that dot on that staff right there, but I don't really know what is the key of C, like what are the other notes. I didn't learn any of that stuff like from piano lessons. I just learned how
the
to.
whole like there's this mode and these ones sound good. This is a dissonance. This is a blah blah blah. All that music theory stuff.
I didn't learn none of that. And maybe the truth is they were teaching me that, but I'm just way too like ADD.
It didn't process in the way that.
Well, yeah. What do you expect an 8-year-old to?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I think to fully understand dissonance, you also need to understand like actual like what the world is like. You actually have to learn what like chaos actually is, and I didn't understand. I knew Nirvana, Transformers, and to put the toilet seat down. That's all I knew. Like.
Which is, if you're only going to know 3 things, you could do worse.
Yeah.
At least one of those is practical, right? I mean,
yeah. And so, yeah. That guitar lesson was way more helpful than the years of just piano lessons, reading music, which was honestly like it echoed the same thing of like school for me. Was horrific. Just like to be forced to pay attention is it's not easy for me.
Yeah, and I think for a really long time it was just seen as like a deficit to the student, which is just sort of like, well, no, people don't grasp and retain things all the same way. It's not, it's not a square peg in a square hole. It's different for different people, and I think people are starting to realize that now, hopefully. But then there's also, I mean, like whatever, but I also wouldn't trade being a kid now for the life of me, because that's a horror-scape in a different way. Not to include shootings, but anyway, that's a different podcast entirely. So you kind of through your way, kind of autodidact yourself into learning about music and the theory that you pick up in terms of how you songwrite, and you pick these things up and you pick them up and kind of like it seems like you're almost like magpie and stuff, right? You're picking up what you want out of this and that. What
piques your interest at the time, because
exactly.
What might pique your interest then, or might change later. Like it's always changing. But it was record collecting and noticing different things every listen through. That was also a huge part of learning.
Would you say you're very self-reflective as a musician?
Probably, yeah. And
I think, and the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of people were forced to spend a lot of times with themselves and their thoughts when COVID hit.
Yeah.
Which wasn't always a treat for everybody. Let's put it that way.
I love thinking.
But yeah, for some folks it's great, and for some folks it's maybe less great. But it seems like being at a time of great transition for the band, or I guess I should say just musically. Like, at what point are you like, no, let's just this is Kal Marks now. This is what this is. Like, what do you have to like get together and play a little bit first? Do you have like the jigsaw puzzle in your mind of like, well, okay, then maybe it's 2 guitars now. Maybe it's like Dylan on drums, and the songs sound like this now.
I mean, I right now it's better than it's ever been.
No,
and I like that's not even my opinion. That's like a lot of people's opinion that have actually been able to see us.
Yeah.
And it's not to discredit.
No. There's no patch on what came for anyone else.
Yeah.
It's not at all.
It's just there, like, to go back to Dwayne Dennison, that is a band that I don't want to hear with 2 guitars.
Why would you? Right, exactly. Why would you? That's terrible.
But our band is a band that should have been with 2 guitars from the get-go.
Well, and you mentioned the leaving space thing. That's something that's very
earlier
conversations too, is that there's a kind of economy of motion, which always kind of happens to a certain degree, usually with like trios, but like I think it works specifically because of the style that you tend to gravitate towards. Like it leads to more composition opportunities to do something cool.
Yeah. I still love the idea of a trio, but it really requires it really requires a definitive identity, I think, and I feel like Kal Marks is always kind of evolving. It's not like every single record is like, I don't even recognize this band anymore, but it always is like a little bit changing, because it's not because I'm trying to change with the times. I don't give a fuck about trends or anything. It's just I have to keep it interesting for myself, and I think the rest of the band would probably say the same thing too. So from now, it's like always going to be about trying to figure out how to do something different with what we have at our disposal, and then but within reason, it's not like the next record is going to be like just all us on circuit bending crap,
Here's the ska record, here's the electronic record.
Yeah. It's so trios are I really love trios, like Motorhead, but that's a band that's like it might sound like a slight, but that's a band that's kind of stayed the same all the way through,
right?
And I really love that. I really love that about them, but I don't think it's it's always I can't not change. It's just in my nature.
Sure. Well, and there's plenty of great power trios, right? I mean, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Minutemen, Shellac, ZZ Top.
Can I tell my Mike Watts story?
But yes, please. He has been in this show and knocked me over with a feather. I've been on his, and it's one of the coolest things that it has ever seen to me. Yeah, I was blown away. It's incredible that Mansion not sound as overwhelmed and like excited as I actually was. But yeah, please tell your Mike Watts. Please.
It's a quickie because it was a very brief interaction. We played with his Italian band.
What are they called?
I don't think I probably would butcher the pronunciation of it.
It's called something kind of ambitious. I remember that, but
yeah. But it kind of got billed as Mike Watt performing.
Il Sogno del Marignano.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah,
it means like the sailor's dream, if I remember correctly. But it's like I took German.
Yeah, nice. They were great, by the way, but everybody that was at that show was like clearly like, I don't even know what this is, but I just know that Mike Watt's playing, and we were like, Minutemen was also a very crucial band to me, especially in high school. They were the band that made me go, I would like to be in a band like that.
Yeah,
where it's like it feels like three best friends all ping-ponging off of each other. Nobody's the star. It's very freeing So anywho, when we got asked to open up for Mike Watt, we were all like giddy as fuck. Like we couldn't believe it. And we play I think he fucked up his leg. So he like kind of just stayed in one spot the whole entire time. And then once we were done playing, he came over to us and he said, "Great job, Radical Cats," or something like that.
Some Wattism, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then he asked us how old we were, and at that time I was 27, and so I said, I'm 27. Oh, actually, first he asked us where we were from,
Mhm.
and our drummer at that time was living in Lowell, and he went, "Jack Kerouac, motherfucker," and, and then he went, "I conked out at a cat's pad there once. Heavy city, man, heavy city."
Oh man, I love it.
And then he asked us how old we were, and I
Mm.
said, "I'm 27," and he was like, "Great, keep it up," or whatever. And he was walking away, and we thought that was the end of the exchange. And then just over his shoulder, he just went, "I was 27 when I made double nickels on the dime." Like, I don't know if it was a slight, if it was like,
yeah, is that like him?
I don't
Is it a
care.
flex?
That's
Is it
that's
informational?
amazing.
Yeah,
That's an amazing story.
let the
that
listener interpret that however they like. It's still awesome. Exactly.
It was unreal. Yeah.
That's why I love that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, that dude is he's an interesting cat,
Oh, for sure.
but a force for good and a very notable one. Again, when I had him on, I got a lot of compliments for keeping him on track.
Real, yeah, he can kind of go Abe Simpson on you, I guess. Not because of his age, just like you're like,
He's got a lot of
thoughts,
cool
yeah.
things that he's done. He's got a lot
Yeah.
of like derivations that are all, none of them are boring. It's never, but that man can talk.
He's seen a lot. He's met a
Yeah.
lot of amazing people. He's probably, like, I think I've digested a lot of music. He's probably digest hundreds of times more, music than I have ever had. Yeah.
But I love that he still, flies the flag for
Yeah.
the start your own band, the DIY or die. There's no what is it saying, that one documentary, like, audience is down here, band's up there. I like it when everyone's on the same, you're taking turns.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's and that I thought when I saw that wasn't even like the Minutemen doc, that was like some other documentary. I saw
Really?
a million years ago, and it was like, oh yeah. Huh.
Minutemen documentary, I remember buying the day it came out.
So good. It's one of my favorites of all time.
I bought it the day it came out, and I watched it a zillion fucking times.
Yeah.
It's a great music documentary.
It really is. I would put
very
it
thorough.
Yeah, it's everything you hope it's gonna be, right? I mean, and I think it serves the purpose that I feel like the very best music documentaries, you can show it to someone who's not familiar with the music, and they'll be like, "Wow, that was great!" at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I have literally done that, and like the reaction was, "Wow, that was great."
Yeah.
So okay, we love Mike Watt. Let it be known, but so you're getting ready for this new version of Kal Marks. You're gonna record the new record. You're gonna record. It's you haven't played out. You haven't toured.
Yeah.
Right. You like had you played together beyond just like a practice or two at that point, or what?
Oh, we had been playing with Dylan and like Christina, and we tried with my buddy. For we had been playing for almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
Just
it
was like literally
kicking the
getting
tires a little bit, like getting into the rhythm of it. So to
yeah, we would get tested, drive to New York, or they would come to Boston, and then we would get in a room. It was miserable, like practicing with masks on.
The worst.
It really was. It really, really was. And honestly, looking back on it, like I want to totally encourage people to be as safe as they need to be. But we were getting tested, and we still wore masks. It's like, what the fuck? Like we were getting PCR tests, like, like we could have.
We didn't know what we know now, though. That's the thing to remember as well. And
yeah,
and it was literally a situation of better safe than sorry.
We were thinking I might get it from eating this banana,
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's
And so we did that we were practicing for over about a year. Yeah, and then when John came in, we just had to drill and drill and drill, and then and actually John lives in New York, Dylan lives in New York, so they would actually get together too, just the two of them,
and do work just as a rhythm section on their own.
Yeah, which was
that helps.
Huge,
yeah.
Huge. And Dylan worked on his own, and we would demo and work on our own. And so by the time we actually did record, it was kind of baffling how well we were, how tight we were.
Sure, yeah.
The hardest thing though was vocals, because you didn't have any shows behind.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah. It's how do you know even where stuff fits in? It's almost.
It's not even that. It's literally just having your voice born in. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just my voice reacts differently when it's performed in front of people. Like, yeah. I can push way harder. It's like a nervous reaction or something. I don't know.
Well, it's a muscle, right? So since it's the kind of thing where it's if it doesn't feel the same, if you don't have that lived experience of doing it every night, then it would make sense that it doesn't feel familiar.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel familiar, then you're going to be approaching it differently than if it's like, you know exactly how it goes, even if you can't articulate what the muscles are doing when you do it.
Yeah. And so there was during the recording, there was literally a moment where Seth, the engineer at Machines with Magnets, he literally was like saying to me, he's like, if you have to do the vocals at home, you know, that's okay. It's going to be okay. You have a microphone at home, right? And I'm like, yes. He was like, you might have to do it at home on your own time because you don't got it right now. And I was like, yeah, I really don't have the gas in me. And then it was literally like, did not sleep, being like, I gotta fucking do this. That just scared my dog. And then I knocked it out, actually, and I didn't have to do the vocals at home. I mean, I'm still not like as happy as I could be, but I did the best I could. It's just, you know, with previous records, we always did it after a string of shows.
You get to warm it up. You get to get it really familiar. Yeah, absolutely.
So it was really hard, and Seth was like, yeah, no, this is everybody's problem right now.
Right.
Because, you know, he's recording all the time, and he's recording a lot of bands, and they all had the same problem. Yep. It was literally like the wind got, you know, like taken out of you. Yeah. So it literally took being really pissed at myself to actually do it. And also my voice has dropped like almost a full octave.
You know, I did notice that, and I didn't know if that was like an aesthetic choice or if that was just like a natural. I mean, it happens a little bit with aging. Anyway,
yeah.
You know.
Like, yeah. Have you ever listened to like? Have you heard like Leonard Cohen's first record and then?
Oh man. Record? Yeah. Yes.
It's like sub octave.
Yeah. It's kind of remarkable. We're sure like, oh wow, why does this sound so different? I know.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah, like when I would yell, when I scream or yell, whatever you want to call it, and it used to be like a hiss, and now it's a growl.
Yeah,
it's a grunt or something. And I don't know if people hate it. It's literally all. I can't do anything about it.
I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, do you ever? I think about it in terms of you ever listen to the Paper Chase, John Congleton's band?
I know who he is.
Okay.
As a producer.
Sure.
I've heard the name, but the Paper Chase, but I haven't gotten around to it.
Incredible band. And before he was winning Grammys.
Yeah.
and the record,
I know it's kind of like bizarre, right? Like
it's cool. Yeah, it's noisy, but like the songwriting is very concise and cool. Like it's very the way it all fits together is really interesting and awesome. But the reason why I'm invoking the Paper Chase is because John Congleton had a certain yelp, I guess is the best way you could put it, that is really noticeable on the earlier records that kind of as it went on, it sort of like changed a little bit. Like the timbre of it changed, and he found a way to kind of lean into it, which is interesting. I think you'd like the Paper Chase, but
okay, cool. Yeah, I'll check that out.
That's neither here nor there. Actually, I haven't had John Congleton on this show like since it started.
Okay.
Since before he won the Grammy. Because if I remember right, I think I said, "Do you want me to kneecap Jack White for you?"
Wow.
I think I'd have to listen back to it because that's like 7 years ago. But like, yeah, he's a fascinating dude, like an incredible talent as a musician as well as a producer. And I think he gets.
Yeah. Have you listened to that record he produced for Angel Olsen?
No, I keep meaning to listen to it because it's. I was like, oh, I'll listen to it if John did it. Like that sounds awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I thought of her music as just being like, yeah, it's good, it's good. But then I heard that record, and I'm like, whoa, this is like high art. Yeah.
I mean, it's heretical because I like what Annie does production wise too, but my favorite St. Vincent's are the ones that he.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And the self-titled especially is one that I think is like, kind of like a career highlight for me. And it's, and it's no patch on the other ones, but like, I think that those two together was a really incredible pairing.
Yeah.
But anyway, this yelping, yelling, et cetera, et cetera. It changes as you get older. And
for sure. I
gets way more exhausting for some of us, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, screaming and yelling hasn't gotten harder for me actually, but it's actually gotten way easier, but it's just it's not coming out of the same. It's like it's like a pipe organ that just expanded or something, or got crushed, or like it's unfortunately the wind is gonna sound different coming out of it.
Yeah, well, and I mean, quite literally, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it's just the wind in question is from your lungs, but it does. The diaphragm changes, your throat changes, like everything about it, and then that's without anything changing because of outside attributes and extensible events, because that has a factor as well, especially if you're not playing all the time.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting you mentioned that, because I actually felt that on the new one, that I think the vocals are especially good. I think it's one of your best vocal performances, actually.
Thank you so much, because I've been so self-conscious about that. But so that's thank you very much. Yeah.
But but it does hit a little different. But that kind of fits with the whole fact that the whole band's a little different now. Like it's not like it's, again, you're not playing ska songs, right? But like it does come at things a little bit differently, and but it fits nicely. It doesn't seem like a jump necessarily. It just seems like it seems more lived in than I guess maybe it should be given credit for, considering how new it was. But it sounds like you put in the work before ever recording the record, even if it wasn't playing shows.
Yeah. Well, Dylan's really good, and he doesn't really bullshit around. He's pretty serious when it comes to playing, and John's really good, and Christina's very good. So I feel like I like, usually when we play, my mind is usually kind of blank, but then every so often when there's like a heightened moment, I can't help but think like, fuck, I'm so lucky right now. like I'm playing with amazing musicians, and that's really hard to come by. It's actually no, it's not hard to come by good musicians. It's hard to come by a group of musicians that have a solid chemistry.
Yeah, where stuff's hitting, where it becomes greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. It's really hard to come by. I mean, I've seen a zillion fucking bands, and it's only every so often that you see one where you go, whoa, you could feel like I'm not a superficial, not supernatural believer or anything, but it is like almost like that hippie dippy shit where you're like, oh, I can feel the energy that they have or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can like just like this band is unreal. Like everybody fits together.
It's doing the thing that it needs to be doing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's something special that happens when that is the case, and that's, I think, palpable, even if it's not definable as an audience member. I think it's still noticeable.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of times where it's like, wow, everyone here is a killer musician, but this just somehow doesn't transcend.
Yeah. I feel like when we are actually like playing our best, I feel like even the people that are like, I fucking hate this music are still like, but they're good at what they're doing.
Yeah, it compels, exactly. There's a compelling nature to it that brings in.
Yeah.
It can bring folks in that maybe otherwise wouldn't be on board.
Yeah.
So then, how did you played with Kowloon Walled City?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Who are old friends, and a fantastic band. Ian, Scott, and John have all been on the show.
Oh, nice.
Different times. Scott's been on twice, actually. Yeah, I think so. Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But it occurred to me when that happened. I was like, oh, that's a good pairing of bands. Not that you guys sound like each other.
No.
You
No.
I was like, oh,
especially us now, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I've loved their band for a long time, and I saw that they had a show, like they had a tour coming our way, and it's been a long time since they've been out on the East Coast, and
they're not exactly road dogs these days. I mean, they have families, they got obligations. Like it makes sense.
Yeah. And I asked if we could play, and it's like a pretty complicated story, but we got on the bill, and then it was immediately like, we can't do it at this venue in Boston, in Cambridge. It's a very long story, but they need to move venues. And actually, I kind of like our band was also kind of suggesting like we should probably move it. And even though it was literally like 3 weeks
before the show, it was kind of like, oh, they're changing venues.
Yeah. And
honestly, I just assumed it was ticket sales, because again, when a band is
no, it was more of a actual like problematic problem with the venue.
Got it.
And it's like way too long to explain. Like everybody in Boston knows this problem, and I thought it was a problem that had been solved. A lot of people thought that, and it hasn't been.
Got it.
So we were like, we got to move on. So, but then it became up to me and Christina
to figure it out
figure
on
it
like
out.
3 weeks' notice. Yeah.
And I haven't booked or run a show, like I haven't been a showrunner, booker, whatever you want to call it, in forever.
Yeah.
So we had to. I did all the coordinating with the it was like a VFW hall basically, and I had to do all the coordinating with them. I had to find a door person. And then Christina set up a ticket link, and she handled finding. We had to find a PA and everything, and it was
The whole thing. Yeah.
and I thought they were gonna like I never met them, and I'm thinking like, man, I hope I don't like
What are
sully
these
this
gonna be
moment
like? Yeah,
for
exactly.
them.
They're gonna be all pissed.
And they were like so fucking nice,
Yeah, they're sweethearts.
and they were just like, yeah, this is gonna be cool. Like,
Yeah.
And their sound guy was also like,
It's like Neurosis. They're staunch characters,
yeah.
usually, but like the sweethearts as people.
I mean, we've played with all sorts of bands, and sometimes with bigger bands, sometimes they're just very shy and disconnected. Sometimes they're complete assholes, and then every so often they are really just real people, and they're really nice, and they were great. Obviously it was like, it wasn't the best of setups because it was a VFW hall, but they were so like appreciative of it, and it went over well. And then the next day, Christina drove John and Dylan back to New York, and she was going to go see her family that lives in New York, in New York, New Jersey area. And I was still in Boston, and Ian, who gave me his cell phone number because he was like, my band's going to play with you. Like, he's like, they really liked us, like both as people and as musicians. And he was just like, my band's going to play with you on the West Coast. I was like, oh, okay. All right. And he just texted me. He's like, hey, just so you know, like, I was serious about that. Like, Strange Light will play with you on the West Coast. I was like, oh, cool. Awesome. And then it was like an hour later, he's like, also, in case if you're like wondering, like, not wondering, in case if you're interested, Rid of Me, the band that was on tour with them, their van broke down in Connecticut, and they will not be able to make it to the show tonight. Would Kal Marks want to open our show at St. Vitus? And it was 4:00. New York is
traffic notwithstanding is
yeah, New York is 3.5 hours away without traffic.
Yeah.
And I contacted everybody in the band. They're already in New York.
Yeah. I
was like, is this a possibility? And it like puzzle pieced together, and I just hit the road. I never unloaded the van.
The one time that pays off. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't unload it. But Christina did blow her speakers in her cab, so she had to go find like a momentary like backup cab and everything.
Yeah.
And made like, they were like, you're supposed to be on at 8:30. I'm like, I'm going to get there at 8:30. And they're like, okay, you'll get there at 8:30. You go on at 9:00. And it was great. It was awesome. I know this sounds ridiculous, but we've been a band for a long time. We've been able to open up for some bands, like some pretty notable bands and whatnot, but we've never been asked outside of Boston. And we've toured the full US plenty of times. We've toured Europe, but we've never gone on like a supporting bill outside of Boston ever.
Right.
And so it was like so nice of them to do that. It was so kind, and it was also, they were doing all the whole entire Container Ships record, and so we were playing to a packed house in New York, and we played some good shows in New York, but not that packed.
I was gonna say
ever.
probably not like that though. Yeah, that's
No.
like a bunch of people are like, this is probably the only time I'm going to get to see this
Mhm.
this way, and I am not going to miss this for the world. Kind of packed. Yeah.
And the audience also had no idea. Like they, I mean, I think Kowloon announced it, but like obviously not everybody's going to be looking constantly at the updates. So people are going like, I don't think this. Who is this? And, but also some of the people came up to me after and were like, "Oh, I saw Kal Marks like 5 years ago. So you guys were like unrecognizable." And they're like, and you're bald now too. So, so I was just like, I had no idea. And then you played a song that I knew, and I was like, yeah, we're back. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? Birch
Yeah.
tables this way? I don't know. What do you say?
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's a great story.
Yeah, it was awesome. They were so nice, and I can't wait to play with Strange Light. We're doing
Strange
3
Light's
shows with them on the West Coast, and yeah, I can't wait for that.
And you're playing with Justin's band. You're playing with If It Kills You too.
Yeah. So
His show's good. I've been on that show. I like that. That's one of the shows I like. That isn't this.
Yeah. He's got a great radio voice too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's got a great conceit to it, an excellent execution, and it's an interesting show. I like songwriting practice.
I know that there's a lot of good bands that have come out of San Diego, but we've never had any luck with San Diego ever. So
it can be tough. Yeah.
Ian threw it out there, like, hey, do you think maybe you could move the LA show one day later
and do San Diego
and not do San Diego?
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, sure, yeah.
And then we'll fit in Bakersfield instead. And I was like, I have no idea what Bakersfield is like.
The home of corn?
Yeah. I know that. That's
about all there. Well, it's not.
Yeah.
More,
but
modern times is what
yeah.
I'm known for.
But I was just like excited to be like, in all the years that we've done a couple West Coast tours, and we've never been able to have a date between the Bay and LA.
You're not playing the Central Valley. Exactly. And I realize that that's not uncommon. That's most fans' experience. But I don't talk about it tons, but I'm from the Central Valley. I'm from a town called Modesto, which Granddaddy is from there.
Yeah.
And Lacey and Scott Peterson, Gary Condit. So it's about 3 hours north of Bakersfield. But other than those high-profile murderers or alleged murderers and the band Granddaddy, there's not much else from Modesto. American Graffiti was.
Really?
Yeah, George Lucas when he was in high school. I did, but like it's the Central Valley. It's a great place to be from because if you're into the kind of things that we're into, it gives you plenty to rebel against. But here's why I'm telling this long, involved story. In the Central Valley, especially way back when a band came through on tour, it wasn't even just that it was like what band it was. It was, a band is coming through on tour. Amazing. Let's all go to this show.
Oh, nuts. Yeah.
And it was a big, like, momentous event, even if the bands weren't frankly quite that good. But like, especially when you're a kid, you're like, you don't care, right?
Yeah.
And the Central Valley is just so hit or miss. Like it's things will run hot in certain cities for a little while, and then those people will like go off to school or like leave school to go whatever, this and that. But I'm always rooting for it. But it seems like Bakersfield's actually have enough people that have stuck around that are dedicated to like making it a cool place that it's kind of been terraformed a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's good. And it's interesting that, I mean, it's Steinbeck country, right? Like it's like Grapes of Wrath. Like it's a specific type of like American thing that is culturally, especially if it's culture you find oppressive, shares more in common with like Kansas than it does with like San Francisco, but it's not the same. There is a very unique thing to it, and it's not altogether terrible. It's hard for me to view it objectively because that's what I was born from, sprung forth, fully formed from the head of Zeus. But that's awesome because Bakersfield, it can be really good. So Strange Light and Kal Marks.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Also, I believe one of the guitar players in Strange Light is from our neck of the woods. Is from New Hampshire, where I'm from New Hampshire actually. And actually, you mentioned Kansas. I was born in Kansas too.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
So whenever I'm like, I like you said, like I want to root for it.
you want them to be doing well. You're ready for it to happen. And
we played in Wichita.
Yeah. For
the first time ever, where I was born.
How was that?
And it wasn't particularly remarkable. I don't know if we'll be coming back anytime soon, but the people were nice, so you know.
When you're playing my hometown of 22 years, Oakland, California, too, with Rip Robe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I love Rip Robe, so that's going to be a good show.
Yeah, they're doing a couple shows with us out here too.
I think they're the bee's knees. They're wonderful.
Sweet. I've never met them in person, so I'll only just talk to them online and whatnot, and I'm excited for that. There's a fuck ton of bands that we're playing with on this tour that I'm really excited about. More than any previous tour, I think. Yeah.
Well, and it is kind of nice that when bands that are doing it, you know, like it's sort of like it. Here's my take on. I think it just means a little more for folks now that it was kind of taken away from us.
Yeah,
ignobly taken away from us, and there's something to be said for that. And there's something to be said for the fact that, like, I get it when people are just, I don't feel comfortable going out to shows yet. Okay, cool, you know, ain't no problem. But like for the people that do it, it seems to hit deeper. If that makes sense. That's my experience.
Yeah, and also it makes the other, like, if you get to play with other interesting bands, it kind of makes you play better too.
Oh, 100%. Yes, like it makes you push harder. It makes you, and not like even it's a competitive thing. It's just
No, I'm not competitive at all. I would not survive in the Mad Max world.
But it just makes you want to be your best, you know, like in a specific way, and there's something really cool about that.
It's just like good vibes going out there, and sometimes it's intimidating, but like usually it's just like, you know, we definitely done tours where night after night we were playing with a band that literally has just formed and maybe even just learned how to play their instruments.
Oh, wow.
which is like I want to encourage them to do that, but at the same time seeing that night in and night out is draining. So when you do get to play like every night with something that's actually interesting,
there's something to be said for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes it such a less miserable experience. Traveling, I love traveling, so but that can only go so far.
You love it until you don't, right? Exactly.
Yeah. If you're showing up to a place and you're like, wow, this is a cool space, and then the opening band is actually like even decently good, you're like, fuck yeah, let's do this, you know? Like, I couldn't be happier, you know?
Can we do the thing? So first of all, at the time of this recording, because it's most people experience this show as a podcast and listen to it at their leisure, sure, whatever. The record, I think there's 2 songs publicly available.
Yeah.
and it's being released shortly. There's a bunch of tour dates. I'll throw it in the show notes, all that stuff. But I started doing this thing. I only ever did it before the pandemic, but just go through song by song.
Oh, cool.
Of this, and you can tell me a little bit about it, either how it came together, the recording process, anything like lyrically that stands out, et cetera, et cetera. So would you be down for doing that?
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Yeah.
I started doing with all the new records, and it's been pretty cool. So let's see if this continues on. So so my name is Hell. First song, My Life is a Freak Show.
Yeah. That one was the last song written for the record. It was written on bass, and it was I was just screwing around with pedals and stuff and putting the bass through distortion and then like octave pedal and then a tremolo, and it made that sound, the da 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 sound, and that's literally just how it started. And then we just kind of jammed on it, and then it was written actually pretty damn fast. And then lyrically, actually, what really like kind of tied it together was Dylan's drum part.
Strong drum part.
Yeah, at the intro drum part, he's like playing with shit all over his drums. So like there's his toms are muted with like plastic. He has a cymbal on a snare, and then he has just trash on top of one of his actual cymbals.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And then when it goes just to kick drum,
yeah,
that's when he's taking all that stuff off the drum set.
Oh, okay. So then it's
a normal drum set.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Right. But lyrically, that song is just I don't know if this is gonna sound vague, but well, initially the inspiration was from another, and I know you hear everybody talks to you about this, from another Conan, another famous Conan podcast.
There's no possibility that another one could exist, sir.
Yeah.
I am the only Conan of note. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm familiar. Yeah. He's taller than me. I'm a better guitar player.
Yeah. He had Andy Richter on, and Andy Richter had been discussing this just this funny concept of, he said, we're just all ooze. We're just all bags of ooze. The fact that like any of us that like would feel superior than anybody else is obscene.
Yeah.
Like he's like, even the Queen of England every so often gets a little shit on her hands when she wipes. And I thought that was so fucking funny. And so I just kind of started writing from there, and just writing about just how humanity's just we're just gross. We're so gross.
You're not wrong.
But there are people that really do feel superior, and those people, I mean, obviously those people just kind of suck, or just need some guidance. Yeah, that's what that song's about. Like, yeah, we're just gross little freaks. If anybody thinks that they're better, you're delusional. You're really delusional.
Come off it, son.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Shit Town is the second song.
Yeah, Shit Town's just kind of like about being from middle of nowhere, like. Yeah. Where I grew up, it feels like every so often. I grew up north of Boston in New Hampshire, where it literally felt like there was nothing going on ever. And it's beautiful up there. It really is beautiful up there. I mean, I definitely love being in the woods and shit. And just especially when you're a kid and you have a lot of imagination and whatnot. But and also I kind of lived my life with blinders throughout my youth. So anything that was like really too, I don't know, I was just so into music and into movies and cartoons and books and shit. So I didn't always notice like everything. I when I was younger, in a way, New Hampshire almost felt idyllic to me. But
Sure.
then as I was getting older, I started realizing like I'm bored out of my fucking mind. And
Idyllic will only take you so far.
yeah. And then you start to realize like how close-minded the mentality of this place can be.
Yeah.
And like, and then since leaving and like, you know, I've gone all over the place and whatnot, I feel like I constantly am hearing about like, oh yeah, you know, so-and-so, yeah, they're dead. Heroin. Or that person, they went on a fucking like, they got an assault rifle and just like shot up their home and then shot themselves. And so like, it's just like, I want, like, as you were saying, I want to champion this place where I came from, because like I do have some good memories, but there's also this like tragedy to it all. And like, and also I just feel like there's like this feeling of like, it's really sad when you hear the voice of middle America is basically saying like, nobody gives a fuck about me. And that's really, I don't know, that's just really sad.
It is.
And then they say some racist shit, and you're like, well, this is why. Okay, but no.
This is why everybody hates you. Yeah, exactly.
No, but it's true. Like there are good, but like misguided people. Yeah. That have lived like, I mean, man, Boston is a small city, and we're actually moving out of Boston. We're moving to Providence, Rhode Island, which is even smaller.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it too big for you?
No. We're leaving Boston because Boston fucking sucks. No, Boston is just no. I actually, honestly, people from Boston would understand why I'm saying that.
Right. Even people that love Boston, but
well, it's probably the same
kind of thing where you can only say it when you have lived in Boston, right? Like,
yeah.
You can't say it, but you can say it.
Yeah. No, it's probably the same way you probably think about the Bay.
Oh,
yes. It's getting
like,
insane.
No one gets to talk trash about the Bay but me, because
yeah,
exactly, the like other people that like lived it. But it's like, no, you don't have that correct. Like, let me explain why that's wrong.
It's getting just
it's the same
unreasonable. It's and like how I've been hearing about, especially at San Francisco. It's like there's no end in sight for how much rent will get hiked up.
Nope. It's
and the cost of living is insane, and Boston is going in that trajectory. But it's not just the cost of like actually having a place, it's also the cost of running a business.
Yeah, just doing anything.
Yeah.
Just existing.
And people are like, well, isn't so great, we have another craft brewery place here. And it's like, yeah, I don't need it. Like, I would like a smaller business. It's like, this is a big craft brewing place. Like anywho. So we're moving to Providence, and I don't even remember what. Yeah. Some people from my hometown, when I talk to them about Providence or Boston, they're like, oh man, that's crazy city, right? No, it's no. Like, where would I even park? I'm like, there's tons of parking.
Yeah, like
yeah,
in
it's
a parking spot, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. they're like, well, what if I get mugged? You're like, you're not gonna get mugged. Most crime is on the internet now, so don't worry about it.
Like everything else that's on the internet these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah.
Everybody Hurts, HERTZ. This is one of my favorites on this record. So
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that song that went through many iterations, and originally, like, I thought it was like I was trying to do, the song Moonlight Mile by Rolling Stones.
yes, I do.
I was trying to do something like that, and I was like, they can do that. Like, I can't do that. It's that is beautiful, but when I'm doing it, it sounds like so corny. And then it became kind of almost like we were almost trying to do something Devo-ish, and then we were just like, we can't do that either. And then it became, in the end, I guess it's almost like Krautrock Thin Lizzy or something, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you got the harmony guitars, you got the sort of expansive rocky scope. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think that's what we were trying to do. And there was a lot of just like krautrock and electronic influences on this record. I mean, the first song, Freak Show, definitely has like a Silver Apples like kind of influence, I find.
Sure.
And so it just like the whole song got like shortened up so much, and the rhythm completely changed, and the lyrics got written like the night before, like the recording, because I could not figure it out.
Oh wow.
And but that happens a lot to me, where it's just like game time, and you just have to go and just write something. And more often than not, though, it's like that pressure actually makes me able to write something that I actually like. And I think that song's just kind of about, there's so much bad news, like, cycling through all the time, that it almost is like you feel like all this bad news is just happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just feel like the world hates me and whatnot. And then you actually, like, if you actually think about it for a second, it's like everybody's fucked. You're not the only one.
Exactly, yeah.
You're not the only one.
Right.
Yeah.
New Neighbor.
New Neighbor is kind of about Boston. It's kind of about, like, it's crazy around here how many condos are being built, like,
yeah.
And I do think, like, people, like, it's inevitable that there is going to be bits of gentrification here and there and whatnot. But like where we live in Boston, it was really like, when I moved here, it was punk city, like the neighborhood that I lived in. And now I'm like, there's no fucking freaks anymore.
When was that, if you don't mind me asking? What year was that?
I moved to Boston in 2007, I think.
Yeah.
But then I moved to the Alston Brighton neighborhood in 2008, I believe. I believe. And that is the real, like, punk mecca.
There's a rich history there.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very, very rich history. Many, many bands. Many venues. DIY or actual establishments. And I just feel like young people probably don't want to really live here anymore. Like, there's nothing in it for them. And that's the only thing that's going to keep your music community vibrant. And I feel like I just see like jocks and like,
right.
And and if I see hipsters, it's like really wealthy, like 40-year-old hipsters that you know, don't care about, you know, the wipers or something, you know, like,
Right,
you know,
right.
you know, like that don't care about anything small.
It's
you
not
know?
of interest to them.
Yeah, and it's really been like it's becoming just really dull because of it.
Yeah.
And every so often somebody's like, well, it's pretty nice that we have this new taco place and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, it's not that good.
Is it?
It's really not that good. Like there was better tacos before when it, you know,
Yeah.
when it wasn't made by some rich white guy. um yeah, it just feels like there's no end to it. And yeah, musically that song though is that kind of is another like kind of like laid back that's a song's a little bit more laid back than the other songs, and then it kind of amplifies at the end.
Yeah, it gets.
But that song's a very lush sounding song because I think one big part of the Kal Marks sound is a pedal called the freeze pedal.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
I've been using it since like 2014 or something like that. And all I do, it's simple, is just I hit a chord simultaneously while holding the pedal. And, you know, it freezes sound.
Yeah.
So it kind of, it just almost like, and then if I run it through, I'll run it through like a reverb, like a modulated reverb pedal. And then it almost sounds almost like synthetic, or almost sounds like an organ or something like that. And that's what all that rich, lush sound is all that freezing. It's just playing chords and freezing them. And they just sustain forever until I let go of the pedal. And Christina has like a freeze pedal that's like on steroids. Like it has like just a lot more options. And like, so her one has like she can program like vibrato or whatever to it.
Awesome.
Where mine is just meat and potatoes. But and that's, yeah, it just builds that really lush sound. And then on top of that, I added a lot of mellotron.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just layers of guitar and layers of mellotron. And then the bass line is also like key in that song too, I think.
Debt
is very different than what it started out as. It started out, this isn't usually a thing for me. Every so often I write a song lyrics first, just all lyrics, and then I just try to imagine what the music would be behind it. And it kind of started out as like a almost like a folk song, just like really repetitive, like how folk songs can be. And then but then we were like, what if we make it like Swans? And we were just like, it's gonna just be like, because it's repetitive.
Yeah.
And then Christina and Dylan kind of were like, well, what if it almost had a disco vibe? And it just ended up becoming something completely just ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous song on the record. And it's absolutely about what the title is about. It's just that, you know, that is one of the most oppressive things going on in this world that we live in. It's very easy to fall into debt, and it feels like you can't escape it. And
Feels like the economy is based on it sometimes.
yeah. I don't even really fully understand economics. When people are like, the Dow is up, I'm like, I have literally no idea what you're talking about. But I do understand big man, small man ideas.
Yeah. So after that, you've got title track. My Name is Hell.
My Name is Hell is kind of just about. There was a kind of a pretty tragic loss that I had of just an old friend in my life that was unfortunately a single mother, and then there was also a litany of people dying, and because of drugs and shit, and it just, I noticed that in the obituaries that, like, they always, instead of just saying what they died of, it would just say they struggled with their demons. And I just thought that was very peculiar. And I just kind of started realizing that we all kind of have just bad sides of ourselves that work against our best interests, and it's our duty to kind of just keep that at bay, if we want to be good to each other and want to stay in the world and whatnot. Yeah. And so it's just about that in general, I think. But it also was at the same time I went to a karaoke night, and somebody was doing maybe one of the most annoying songs I've ever heard in my life. I don't know if you remember this song. I don't know if I had ever heard of it before, but the band is called the Ting Tings or Ting Tangs.
I am familiar, unfortunately. Yes,
it's like
yes.
My name is Dick, and I was like, wow, this is maybe it was the karaoke.
No, it's terrible.
It's a really
good. It's not nice.
And I was just, because of, like, I don't know, like my ADD. Sometimes I'm really scattered brained, and then sometimes I'm hyper focused on just looking at something. And I was, in this moment, I was just it's just how my brain works. I don't fully understand it, but I couldn't stop looking at the monitor with the lyrics, and I was just like, these lyrics are fucking awful. But then the one lyric was, they call me hell, and I was like, that's fucking awesome. That's like, that sounds so good. It has no right
to be in a shitty song.
And be in the shitty song.
Yeah, man.
So it went, they call me hell, to My Name is Hell. And
first thing I thought of when I saw that title was Harvey Milk, by the way. Like,
which song?
Not that it sounds like Harvey Milk. It's a Harvey Milk style title, like in the way that it's a little Cormac McCarthy short story in a title,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we definitely have a lot of that in our past, from them. Yeah.
Not that it sounds like a Harvey Milk ripoff. I'm just saying that from that grand tradition of just like the evocative title, it's like, oh wow, what's that about?
Yeah, it's the most like peppy song we have.
Yeah.
Ever. And but it's also like the most dark song. And I kind of like those kind of juxtapositions. Yeah.
Did you have the album title first or the song title first?
Song title first, yeah. God, I think the album was called My Name Is Hell because all the other album titles were dog shit.
That's a good reason.
In fact, not everybody was like there. Nobody was like fuck no, that it can't be called that. But it wasn't actually at first like everybody was like
no, everyone wasn't on board immediately.
They were like, that's good, but maybe I don't know, like maybe we could find something else. And it was literally like, we can't find anything else. It's a great song title.
Yeah.
And then also I realized in the context of the whole entire discography, I never realized all of our full length records are named after the song.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Life is Murder. Then the second record is called Life is Alright, Everybody Dies, which the first song on the A side is Life is Alright. The first song on the B side is Everybody Dies.
Yeah.
And then Universal Care, there's a song on that called Universal Care. And so it's just like, all right, we'll just keep with this tradition, I guess. I don't know if that's gonna keep on going on. I it's not been my plan at all. It's just, that's a good song title. Okay, it's gonna be the album title too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ovation is next.
Ovation started out as just like jamming, and it was just kind of how like Freak Show was bass going through tremolo to set the pace of the song. It was bass through a delay and just playing those two notes so it goes dun, and then that like release makes that fluttering repeat. And so it's just that, and just sticking around. I recorded it in the practice space, and then I just wrote like extra parts to it and made a song from that. And then we re-demoed it with Christina playing drums because sometimes we have to do that because we live 3 hours apart.
Yeah, you're not close. You're not everyone's in the same house or city or whatever.
Yeah. So we demoed it in the practice space, me on bass, Christina on drums. And then I added one guitar to the demo and sent it over. And then Dylan worked on it from there and kind of totally put his own touches on it. And then Christina added her guitar after that. But lyrically, that's I grew up religious. I grew up in a, but kind of with a Catholic background, but like kind of a weird Catholic background, where I don't think my family was Catholic before they came to America. And my dad is not Catholic at all. My dad, but me and my mom and my parents are still together and everything. But that was like almost like this unspoken rule. It's like, you guys go to church. I'm not going. My dad just did not go.
Yeah.
But we would go all the time. And I was a good God-fearing child up until 14 when I just suddenly was like,
nah.
I don't. But I was a good boy. I was a very good boy. I prayed all the time. I learned to be good to people through it. But then a bunch of fucked up shit happened in the Catholic Church, and we just stopped going.
Yeah.
My mom didn't make any of us go, and she didn't go anymore. And so religion, though, has left a bit of a scar on me. Like, I don't believe anymore, but sometimes I like had that feeling like somebody's looking over my shoulder and whatnot. And so I still have this like kind of interest in religion, even though I also fucking hate it at the same time.
Well, interest doesn't equal affinity.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just really like, especially in the early pandemic, watching a ton of TV, watching a ton of YouTube videos. You know, just being like, all right, how many more Don Rickles clips can I watch?
Answer a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started watching like televangelist stuff.
Oh, wow.
And just being like, this is freaky fucking shit. And then I just kind of started writing from like kind of like that perspective, and how it's not that different than like fucking dictate, like all the famous dictators, the way that they talk. Which it was funny. I was visiting my parents, and my parents had some old friends over, and my dad's a history buff. And they were like, this guy was saying like, isn't it amazing that anybody like followed Hitler? He was just like insane, just yelling and stuff like that. And my dad was like, well, the truth is that you're only seeing that snippet. You're not seeing the full performance. It was a methodical thing that he did, where he started out quiet, and then he gathered, and he played on everybody's fears, and he suckered everybody into believing his shit and going along with him. And you know, it's like, it honestly, televangelism and this and that kind of speech is like, it's just an amazing trick, I guess. It's disgusting, but it's
disgusting, but amazing.
But it's impressive. You go, yeah, you know, all your problems, it's that guy, and if you listen to me, all your problems will be solved. And they sucker one person, and then it just kind of ripples and builds and builds. And and I just kind of was marveling at the comparison. And it was particularly the one video that really blew me away is on Oprah from like the 80s, with this kid. It's like his father, who's a televangelist, and his son. He's getting his son, who's like 8 or 10, and he's getting his son into it, and his son is like just very timid and like shaking and whatnot, and they're like, and all the audience is like, how dare you like force your child into doing this? And he's like, got the southern drawl. He's like, hey man, he wants to do this, you know, like this is like, Banyan, go show him what you can do. And this like very shy kid goes from shaking to going, heathens, repent, and it's like, it's fucking insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's so nuts. And it's like just this yammering, and it's wild as fuck. And if you, at the end of the song, you can hear it buried in the song. And when we hit the last bum, 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 bum on that song, you can hear Oprah go, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
And I don't think he does. Just like how I didn't understand piano. Yeah. So I hope I don't think we get sued for that, but
Hopefully not. Oh, it's fair use, I would say.
I don't think Oprah's gonna find out. Yeah.
She's got enough money. It's fine. Oprah, big Protonic fan, actually, if it turns out.
Yeah. You heard it.
The Future.
That's not my favorite song on the record. It's it really, that song is the one song that really feels like it fits in with old Kal Marks.
Yeah, I can hear that. Yeah.
And it's not that it's like a bad song. It's just I don't really feel like it fits with what we do now. And it's a kind of just vaguely about how everything is so daunting and grim looking, and that's really it.
Evergreen topic these days.
Yeah.
Who Waits?
That one's also about religion, specifically more about my actual religious experience. Just I just kind of find it's so bizarre how much of the Kool-Aid I drank, and yet I was listening to pedophiles,
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like I feel like I have this like little, there's already a lot of guilt in Catholicism, but like there's this guilt that I have guilt for buying up Catholicism as a young boy. And I know I was young. I shouldn't be so hard on myself, but every so often I think about it a lot. Like I'm just like, oh God. Like I was hanging on to every word spoken through a pedophile's voice.
Woof.
Yeah. And that song was that's another song where musically written on bass first. It's a creeper, like kind of like slow building song, and it definitely has that kind of krautrocky kind of influence. Particularly though, like I feel like, have you ever listened to the third record by Portishead?
Oh yeah, I love that record. It's like wild underrated. Yeah.
It's maybe one of the most important records in my life.
It's and the fact that like so many people that claim to love that band are like, what? They have a third record? It's like, yeah, it's great.
It's amazing.
Good.
And like people have told me like, I've heard people say, I don't know, it kind of just sounds like a Radiohead record. I'm like, it's better than any Radiohead record. It's way better than any Radiohead record.
Yeah. First of all, how dare you? Secondly, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a fucking masterpiece. And
if I ever get anyone from that band on, I'm probably gonna piss everyone off by talking about that record for like 2/3 of the interview.
Well, Jeff Barrow, his other band is also really fucking amazing. Beak.
I like Beak quite a bit as well. But
Beak is really great.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just that song. I feel like that song. I feel like New Neighbor, and I feel like Freak Show also kind of were influenced by that record.
I can hear it. No, now that you mention it, I can totally hear it. But
yeah,
again, I feel like for a band that's that big, like most people don't actually know that record, which is like crazy.
I love their first two records too, but the third record is it really is distinct as like really like it stands out. And I also am a guy that kind of gravitates towards the underdog, like like I will grab. I'll be like, people like everybody knows who Hall & Oates is, but I'll be like, but have you heard Sacred Songs by Daryl Hall?
You're pulling one out from the vault. Sure, exactly. I get it.
The Robert Fripp produced record,
Yeah.
that record is so underrated. Or, stuff like that. Yeah.
Mr. Dictionary, a satire.
Yeah, I had to put a satire in there just in case, because I feel like everybody is so literal right now
Yeah, man.
that I think they would think that I actually am. I'm like, it's from the perspective of a grumpy old man who says those were the days but when you actually listen to the guy, you're like, sounds miserable.
That sounds awful.
When the old man says, we back in my day, we had to go up the hill, whatever, like it was uphill both ways, whatever. You're like, that sounds awful. But they're talking about it like they're glorifying it.
Right.
It's
like it's something cool. Totally.
No, it's like, and I started realizing, like, oh, there must be so much pain in that kind of person. And I'm not glorifying that person. I'm just trying to understand that kind of person.
Right.
And, but the actual title comes from a Saturday Night Live sketch from the mid-90s with Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, Tim Meadows, and Norm Macdonald is like a focal point in this.
All right.
And it's called the Polar Bear Cage sketch. And they're all at a polar bear cage, and they're all been drinking, and they're all going like, I bet I could jump in that polar bear cage, and I could I could tease the polar bear and get out scot-free. And the first guy jumps in, and Norm Macdonald goes, hey, I don't think you should do that. And they're like, fuck off. And they jump in, and they get decimated, and blood spills everywhere. And then another one does it, and Norm goes, I don't think you should do that. Don't go. Did you just see the last guy? He got killed.
Yeah.
And then it gets to Tim Meadows, and Tim Meadows calls him Mr. Dictionary. And I just thought it was so funny. Just the Mr. Dictionary. And I thought it was like, and also people always talk about how great Saturday Night Live used to be and whatnot. People always talk about that. It was so much better. And it's like, actually, if you watch Saturday Night Live, there was some good sketches, but there's always been horrible sketches.
It's like the Twilight Zone. People only remember the amazing episodes of the Twilight Zone, but they did swings that also had big misses as well.
Yeah.
You ever watch like a bunch of them in a row? Like, oh yeah, this one sucks.
Yeah.
But then there'll be something that's like, oh my god, this is like a timeless story and like classic.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. But then it's like, oh yeah, this one blows.
Yeah.
Good,
or X-Files, or
yeah, sure.
Or just the music of the 60s. For some reason, people have this delusion that the 60s is
oh god.
Like the 60s were unparalleled as far as music. And it's like, yes, it's true. There was the Velvet Underground, there was Jimi Hendrix, there was Motown, but there was also a bunch of fucking awful music that was like written by pedophiles. So it kind of, I realized that those two things can connect from this Saturday Night Live sketch to this character that talks about how good the old days were.
Yeah.
And musically, that song is just it's like the most brutal, hammering kind of song.
Yeah.
And but it also has, suddenly there's just this sudden burst of strings in it, and I really like that juxtaposition in that song. There's just this randomly this big choir and strings in it, and I don't know. I want to go more into that realm. It's like super heavy, and then randomly, just something out of nowhere kind of comes into it.
Yeah, maybe you should and or shouldn't listen to the Paper Chase, because that was kind of the thing that they did. But that was
okay, all right.
And I'm sure it'd be different if you did it, but like it was notable. Let's put it that way. But I like that you have a satire in there to just explicitly remind, which apparently you need to do. Yes, this is.
I mean, the truth is, most people understand.
Yeah, but then there's also people that want to interpret things in bad faith and are just looking for a thing to beat you up with too. And you know, when you travel at a certain level, you don't get that as much, but sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I do have friends that are like that are like, outrage is addictive and bad news is addictive. And I have so many friends that just, I'm at this point, like, I just don't even listen to the news anymore. I feel like,
well, I think
there's no point.
Why would, I mean, I think a lot of people have traded any chance for larger scale justice or movement of the needle towards pure catharsis.
Yeah,
and they've started treating it as if catharsis was the goal, and I think that's.
I mean, we all need to vent, but
sure.
In the end, if just donate some money,
right? Exactly.
Donate money if you can, and just be a nice person. That's the only thing you have control over, because the truth is, being addicted to like outrage and bad news is just only gonna make you a fucking crummy person to be around. Because, like,
agreed.
Yeah. So I put it there just in case if anybody were to like try to look for the worst in me.
Of course.
Just in case if somebody was like, you know what, I always thought he was a bigot or whatever. Just
exactly. Check this out. Because clearly it's impossible to do allegory. Everything has to be written from first-person perspective.
Yes. And I understand there are comedians that have bad taste.
Sure.
But there is a thing called satire. And I grew up on Mike Judge and Mel, Mel Brooks, and just like I worry that somebody would be like, springtime for Hitler. Oh God. Like, like how could he? And it's like, you don't get it then,
Well, and this is a much larger conversation of not summing up a song, but like, I think that there's a mean point of somebody being famous enough to have people want to target them, but then also not being famous enough to be able to adequately defend themselves in what is ostensibly anarchy. Right? Everybody having a voice means that everybody has a voice, and that isn't. I would actually posit and say that's probably a bad thing for humanity, at least from a mental health perspective, and certainly a bad thing for anyone attempting to get like nuance out of the world.
Yeah,
because nuance doesn't sell.
Yeah, I just kind of made this realization though that, like, nobody knows who the fuck I am, so they probably they probably won't come gunning for me.
Oprah has a community for that. Like the people, I dare not say their name, but like the people on Twitter who like to come for people, they're not going to come for you. But like there is that mean point of like, well, hopefully if ever that was the case, he would have enough of a platform to be able to adequately. Yeah,
I don't know. I put it there as a precaution, and but on the other side of the coin, I understand that it's a very sensitive time.
It sucks because
I also understand that people are sensitive right now because
exactly,
like literally, like rights. There are there are rights being stripped from me right now.
Like, what's happening this Tuesday? You know, what right is being stripped now? Okay,
Yeah.
what fresh hell is this? Exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and
pretty real.
being a young person right now,
Oh,
especially a young person that feels any bit marginalized,
yeah, it's a hell.
like it doesn't look great.
No, I mean, it doesn't look great for the older folks either. But it's got to be especially hit you hard when you're like, this is the world we get. Thanks a fucking pants load, everybody.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think I would be on edge all the time, thinking like, is I don't know, is this person gonna fucking shoot me? You know?
Yeah. That's real.
Yeah. Is this person like a QAnon psycho? Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah.
Last song of the record, Bored Again.
This is the oldest song by far on this record, but it's completely rewritten. It dates back all the way to 2010, and it was called Born Again, and the whole theme was different. It was kind of about how, you know, there's different cliques in music and art culture and whatnot, and sometimes somebody hops from one to the other and whatnot. I oddly have never felt like I belong to a specific one. I like all music, and I know a lot of people say that, and they actually don't. I like.
It's like throwing some mirrors about.
Like,
Let's see if that holds true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I'm not like, I'm Mr. Noise Rock. I only like noise rock.
Yeah.
I love hip hop. I love country music. I love jazz. I love it. I really do love everything. But I would notice that, like, you know, this guy that was like in the indie rock world suddenly became like a crust punk, and they can't even make eye contact with you anymore. It's really weird.
That's wild
how that happens, because some people, I don't know why it happens exactly. Like, maybe they never felt like they belonged to the indie rock world or whatever, which is fine. But it's kind of weird when you just kind of write off anybody that was in that community or whatever. Like, you can't even say hi.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But that is a song that would be written in my early 20s. I'm 34 now. That doesn't happen so much anymore because we're too old and we don't care about being cool.
And that feeling only intensifies, let me assure you.
Yeah. Do not give a flying fuck about what's cool.
Yeah, no.
I'd rather just
clean in its way.
I'd just rather talk to fucking real people, and instead of, you know, and that's the thing with music. There's always going to be these like kind of weird, like tastemakery kind of people. There is always going to be that, and I constantly lose patience for that. And I think honestly, even those people get aged out of it, and they go, you know what, I don't want to be a gatekeeper anymore. You know,
that sounds exhausting. Yeah,
it's so exhausting. It's like, yeah, like I've had some friends that are like, you know, they were like a crust punk, and then they're like, you know what,
I'm doing this now. Yeah,
I like Janet Jackson. Like, you know, like,
yeah, totally, yeah.
There's no shame.
Yeah,
I've lived in a world, in a music mindset where there is no shame. But that being said, that song doesn't really feel that relevant to me, but I like this construct of this song. I like the chord progression and everything. So years later, change it to Bored Again, drop it a full step down because my voice has lowered too, and change it to just being about what everybody is going through right now. Which I noticed that when I was like working like 2 jobs, I was never bored. My life sucked.
Right, but you're never bored.
But I was never bored.
Yeah.
And I think if there was one message to the song is that the next time you're feeling bored, realize that there might be actually some kind of privilege in there. You actually have the privilege to be bored because boredom really, I feel like, I might be totally wrong about this. I might be wrong about everything. But
it's always a factor, I guess. Yeah.
But I think the thing is, boredom is usually, I at least when I experience it, is when I don't have to do anything. I want to do something, but I don't have. I just don't know what it is that I want to do. I'm like, maybe I'm a little depressed or something like that, and but like, I actually don't have to be anywhere. Like, I don't have anything. I don't have any priorities at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting on a couch going, I'm fucking bored. And then you're like, well, that's actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's a pretty lucky thing.
There's worse things to be experiencing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's the record. My Name is Hell. Kal Marks, bandcamp.com, explodingsoundrecords.bandcamp.com. August 5th, right? So the time of this recording, that's next week. Is that next week? I think it's next week.
2 weeks.
All right, whatever.
Yeah.
By the time people that don't pay money to hear this hear it, it'll be fresh.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Patreon.com/Protonic. Carl, this has been awesome.
Thank you for having me. And sorry if I, going over time or whatever. I can gab. I'm sorry.
You've heard this show, right?
Yes, I have. Yes.
It's kind of what we do here.
Okay, that's. I'm so self-conscious that I always think.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Thank
you
last thing, can question, the only can question I ever ask. Choose to interpret however you like, but why do you do what you do?
Because I'm just so goddamn good at it. No. No. Yeah. So I have listened to your podcast, and that is a really hard question. I actually like.
It's not easy. No.
I mean, it is and it isn't. It's like the Occam's razor or whatever they call it. It's such a simple thing, but it can. I think I listened to the one with Scott, and didn't he had like a minute and a half long pause
of complete silence that I did not dare interrupt. Yes, you're correct. I was like, nope, I'm not going to say. I'm not throwing him a life preserver on this one. He's got to figure it out.
And the truth is, with that, is that I know why there was that pause.
It happened. Like, I don't know what happened here, and it's like, no, that's fine.
I know why there's that pause, and maybe I'm projecting. I think I know it because what we do is so fucking insane.
Yeah,
it's to be like, I am going to work on music and try to share it with the world and try to travel and see if anybody likes it. Is like, it is bizarre. That's like it, like trying to explain that to my sister-in-law, who like she like is just like, you poor thing. Like, why are you doing this to yourself?
Why would you do this? Yeah.
Why would you do this to yourself? And it's in a way, there is a choice, but it's almost like there is no choice. Because you know how miserable you would be if you weren't doing it. It does make you miserable too, but you know it would be so much more miserable because there are a lot of headaches involved with doing this. There is a ton. There's bookers that take forever to respond. And you're like, motherfucker, you reached out to me.
Yeah.
And now you're ghosting me? What the like?
Yeah.
And this show is a week away. Oh my God. Like there's a lot of headaches. There's a ton of headaches. But you know how miserable you would be if you weren't doing it. You really do. You really think about it. I know plenty of people that were doing it and they kind of got out of it. But I know that there's a chance that they may come back always because you know you got that itch at one point. You making something and performing it in front of people is like jumping off a building. It really is like so frightening and so thrilling. And it's the greatest high on planet Earth. That again should be, I'm not the greatest expert because my drug experience is minimal. But it really like I when you play a great show, you feel like, I don't know. It's I don't even know how to explain it. And you just keep on chasing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Or you keep on chasing writing with your best friends, or not, it doesn't even have to be your best friends. People that you make sense with, and whatnot, and you just, it's like it's an addiction. It's like you can't not do it. Christina, our guitarist, she started another band, and I knew it was gonna happen. Like I knew she can write songs. I knew there was no way she was never going to return to writing songs and sing. And like it was inevitable. It's going to happen. And she, tomorrow she might be like, I'm done doing this new project that she's doing, that I'm also playing in as well. But like, I know that there's a chance that there will always be, she may return. And it makes I don't know. Yeah. It's what makes you feel like you're living, Yeah. This has been such a long-winded answer, but it's like, that question is gonna,
believe it or not, there's been much
one.
longer. There's been much longer.
Yeah.
Don't
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's
like,
either super quick or it tends to be like a novella, and I love them both. I love them all because there's no wrong answer. It's whatever it is. And Carl, I thank you.
Thank you. This was a great pleasure. Thank you.
And I can't promise you I'm going to come down to your Chicago show, which is the closest to where I live.
Yeah,
I got a lot going on, but I will assuredly see you down the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the with this tour, the plan is like, the main focus is getting to the West Coast.
Yeah, understandable.
we will come back to the Midwest because there's just so many places to play.
Yeah,
in the Midwest.
Talk.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Yeah. All right. Excellent.
Have a excellent release and a great tour, and thank you very much, man.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right, take care. Oh, there he goes. Carl Shane, Kal Marks. What a cool guy. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a lovely time. And yeah, let's listen to some of the new record again. Name of the record is My Name Is Hell. You can get it kalmarks.bandcamp.com, explodingsoundrecords.bandcamp.com for the vinyl. This is the title track. Here we go. My Name Is Hell.
Another cold one tonight. Fireside. TV's all the friends. You can't control your veins. Can't stave off another offering. It's heroin. You want it so bad. You can't get past me. Won't let
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Do. That was some Kal Marks for you. That is My Name Is Hell. And go get the record if you haven't already. If you haven't already pre-ordered it or anything along those lines. Get it at the places that I said to get it at less than a minute ago. KalMarksBandcamp.com, Exploding Sound Records? Exploding Sound, is that what it is? Yeah, I think it is. Exploding Sound Records.bandcamp.com. Good stuff. And if you are in any of the places they're playing, go see them on tour. You can find that wherever your local internets are. Yeah. Cool dude. The name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you very much for listening to it. This show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific on RadioNope.com. broadcasting to Twitch and YouTube as well. This show is always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. ProtonicReversal.com for the archives. If you like the show and want to get episodes sooner and also help the show, patreon.com/ProtonicReversal. We'll achieve that goal. $1 a month will get you there. Thanks, folks, sharing the show around to their friends and their enemies and their frenemies on all the various podcasting places, YouTube, etc. All that helps people find the show. It's just a darn nice thing to do. I appreciate that. Some really rad stuff coming up. Stay tuned. Dan Kabinski of DeKreutzen coming in. I think Justin Broderick's finally coming in too. And there's one thing I'm not going to say. I don't want to say it till it happens. Bunch of things happening. Stay tuned. Keep it subscribed. If you don't subscribe already, it's real easy. Click on the subscribe button. Away you go. That helps people find the show as well. Oh, Action Chief. ActionChief.bandcamp.com.
Can you hear me now?
Let's stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128, it's dark and lonely.
Take it easy.
You got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey, hey! This